Welcome to the podcast, folks. Today we're diving into a conversation between Jeffrey Sachs and Zhang Weiwei that really digs into the contrasting philosophies between Chinese and Western views on war, peace, and international relations.
Absolutely, I'm ready to get into it. So, the discussion really centers on how these two perspectives differ, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like on one side, you have the Western realist perspective, which tends to see international relations as a perpetual struggle for power, always about dominance and immediate self interest. And then, on the other hand, there's the Chinese perspective, which, emphasizes long term stability and non aggression.
Right? That's a key contrast. So, while the West might view power as, like, the primary currency of global affairs, China's approach is more about sustaining a harmonious environment over centuries.
Exactly. It's like they focus on the long game, envisioning stability as both the means and the end.
Yep.
It's almost as if they see war and conflict not as inevitable, but as last resorts that disrupt a larger pattern of order.
Now, Jeffrey Sachs, as I recall, challenges the dominant US realist theories quite strongly in this dialogue. He argues that these theories are limited and don't capture the full picture, especially when compared with China's civilizational approach.
Right on. Sachs criticizes the conventional view by pointing out that the West, particularly the United States, seems almost stuck in a mindset that prioritizes short term gains and power plays.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, China's traditional philosophy steers clear of this aggressive competition by stressing strategic restraint and non aggression.
it's interesting because when you think about it, this isn't just a modern political disagreement, it's rooted deeply in history and philosophy. How, say, Confucian values shape China's approach versus the Enlightenment ideas that fuel Western thought.
Absolutely, it's really a clash of historical narratives. Sachs suggests that the Western narrative often overlooks how China's emphasis on civilizational continuity has nurtured a preference for order and gradual progress, rather than constant upheaval.
Right, and this isn't just academic theory. It has real policy implications. For instance, Sachs calls for a new global framework that would, ideally, blend these approaches. Imagine an international order that values long-term stability over episodic power imbalances.
Yes, exactly. And that idea is really provocative. He's essentially saying, hey, the West might need to listen more closely to what China is offering in terms of a vision for peace,
Yeah, that's a
one
bold
that
claim.
challenges some deeply held assumptions in international relations.
Well, that's fascinating. Don't you think there's a bit of an oversimplification there? I mean, isn't it a bit challenging to merge such distinct worldviews into one coherent policy framework?
Fair point. I mean, synthesizing these perspectives is definitely not straightforward. It's like trying to blend oil and
Exactly.
water sometimes. Sachs acknowledges this, but seems to argue that the current US dominated realist model is, well, increasingly outdated in a multipolar world.
And that's where Jiang Weiwei's contributions come in, right? He's been a strong advocate of showcasing China's civilizational attributes as strengths in the global order.
Yep, that's right. Zhang Weiwei effectively points out that China's consistent emphasis on non aggression and long term planning offers an alternative blueprint to the constant, sometimes reactive nature of Western policies. It's like suggesting a different kind of world order that isn't about perpetual conflict.
It almost feels like they're inviting the global community to rethink the idea of progress itself, shifting from win-lose dynamics to more of a worldview focused on mutual stability, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like they're urging policymakers to consider peace and sustainability as measures of success rather than just military might or economic spats.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's like really provocative in today's environment of rapid technological and geopolitical change.
Do you think this vision can realistically influence current US-China relations? It sounds idealistic.
Well, it's definitely idealistic. You know, there's always the practical challenges when ideals meet reality.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But the dialogue does push us to examine old paradigms and explore whether the world isn't ready for a shift away from zero sum thinking.
And even if it's idealistic, ideas like these can plant seeds for long-term change. Sometimes it's the seeds of radical rethinking that eventually lead to transformative action, right?
Exactly. kind of like planting a garden. You start small, and over time, those ideas grow into larger shifts. And while the road is steep and not without its critics, it encourages us to envision an international order built on stability rather than constant clashes.
I also noticed that the dialogue touches on the need for the West to appreciate the cultural and historical roots of China's approach. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I do. It's like understanding that China's view on war and peace is not just a reaction to current events, but is deeply embedded in a civilization that values continuity
Right,
and
exactly.
ethical governance. And Sachs challenges the notion that these approaches are incompatible. They might actually be complementary if we're willing to rethink our assumptions.
That's where I see some tension. The critics might argue that while an international framework based on non aggression sounds great in theory, it might be too idealistic when dealing with realpolitik.
True, and let me respectfully challenge that. While realpolitik often dominates the narrative, there's a growing awareness of its limitations. We've seen in recent years
absolutely.
that unsustainable policies eventually lead to backlash, so maybe integrating a more holistic approach isn't such a crazy idea after all.
Yeah, and coming from two prominent voices like Sachs and Weiwei gives the argument a lot of weight. It's not just theoretical, it's backed by a deep historical context.
Right, and what's fascinating is how this discussion invites us to reconsider our global narrative. It's like a call to arms, not with weapons, but with new ideas about governance and international relationships.
I couldn't agree
It's
more.
encouraging a dialogue that goes beyond traditional military alliances and economic competition.
And speaking of dialogue, it's good to see that amid all the rhetoric, there's a genuine effort to bridge a gap in understanding between the episodic, short-term focus of the West and the more steady, long-view approach of China.
Absolutely. It's almost like they're saying, let's not demonize one another. Let's learn from the distinct methods each side brings to the table. There's
Yeah, that's
potential
true.
for a richer, more nuanced global dialogue if we can appreciate these differences rather than just seeing them as ideological opposites.
It's a fascinating conversation because it pushes listeners to reflect on whether the prevailing global order is really serving everyone equally. Could there be space for a model that values long-term peace and stability over constant competition?
Exactly. It's a challenge to the status quo. And while this might not happen overnight, the very act of having these conversations is a step toward a broader, more inclusive framework for international relations.
True.
It's an invitation for policymakers and thinkers alike to, re-examine what progress really means.
And it points to the idea that global change might require not just new policies, but a whole new mindset, one that frankly takes a lot of courage to adopt in a world so deeply entrenched in conflict and competition.
Exactly. And it's about time too. With rapid shifts in technology and power dynamics, clinging solely to old paradigms is increasingly unsustainable. This dialogue is a reminder that sometimes shaking up our foundational ideas is the first step towards real, lasting change in global affairs.
It's been a really engaging exploration of not just geopolitics, but the fundamental philosophies that steer nations. I love how the conversation makes us not only think about policy, but also about the values behind these policies.
Absolutely. It's like an intellectual journey through time and culture, a journey that challenges the way we normally view international conflicts and collaborations.
Yep, exactly.
And whether you agree with every point or not, it definitely opens up a space for reflection on our global future.
So thanks for that deep dive. It's been both enlightening and thought-provoking. It really leaves us asking, what if the world chose a different path?
Exactly. And that's the kind of dialogue that really keeps the conversation going. Thanks for joining in and for adding your critical insights. It's these kinds of discussions that bridge gaps between Western short-sightedness and Eastern long-term vision.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. That wraps up our discussion for today. Till next time, remember to keep questioning and exploring new perspectives.